Hello again to the second part of my series on Jurassic World Evolution's unknown inclusions, where we look at aspects of the game we have yet to hear be implemented, but whose presence or absence I believe will be very important in deciding how successful this game is. In the last video, I worried about the fact that we don't have any idea about whether or not modding will be included. I want to be able to mod the game's entities in order to change their colors, their appearances, etc. I argued that modding helps to extend a game's lifespan as well as breathe fresh air into it, far outweighing the potential risks that Frontier Developments and Universal might harbor against the practice. I would appreciate if you watched my first video to fully understand my position, but it's only a recommendation, so otherwise sit back and relax as we look into my second unknown for Jurassic World Evolution. As a disclaimer, the comments section will be closed for this video just as it was for the last video. You can still like or dislike the video, but please direct your comments to the third part of this series. That video will be called Realists Guide to Jurassic World Evolution Unknown Inclusions Part 3. This is to better keep track of the comments and engage with my audience more easily. I might be doing this only once though, so kindly let me know if this system was too troublesome or not. So now, let's get on with the video. The second thing we have no idea about is regarding how much liberties Jurassic World Evolution will take in designing some of the creatures they make. What I mean is, will Jurassic World Evolution make their dinosaurs appear differently from how they are understood from a paleontological perspective or a lore perspective? On one hand, almost all of the dinosaurs they've shown off look very good in my opinion. Many of the traditional Jurassic Park dinosaurs look like their counterparts in the movies, especially the Ceratosaurus, and even the never-before-seen dinosaurs look amazing. That Edmontosaurus they showed off is hands down one of the best in-game models I've seen, not only because of its movement and coloration, but also because of its accuracy. Specifically, I want to draw attention to the structure on the head of Edmontosaurus, which looks similar to that of a rooster's comb. There are two things I want to show, the first of which is the official Jurassic World artwork for Edmontosaurus. Obviously, you'll notice that the thing that's missing is the comb. Why is it absent here and present here? Well, a fossil discovery was made by Bell et al. In 2013 of an Edmontosaurus regalis that had a large mass of fossilized, fleshy tissue on the back of its head, leading the authors to conclude that it had a comb on its head like a rooster. On one hand, its presence in Jurassic World Evolution seems like a sure sign that the developers will attempt to honor and incorporate the work of actual paleontologists while making sure not to contradict the canon look of some of the dinosaurs. But on the other hand, I have cause for concern for the liberties that Jurassic World Evolution might take after seeing this creature, which I have confirmed to be none other than a Deinonychus. The funny thing for me is that when I first saw the trailer for it, this creature was the only negative blip on my radar. Whereas the newly showcased Edmontosaurus stayed true to paleontology, and Ceratosaurus stayed true to its appearance in Jurassic Park 3, Deinonychus looked downright out of place. So, what's the big idea with this fella? Well, for one, it caused a lot of confusion for those that watched the trailer. Was it a real-life species like Guanglong from China, or was it a hybrid dinosaur like Carnoraptor in Jurassic World the app game? In the end, it was confirmed in this tweet by Nick Rogers, the head of animation for Jurassic World Evolution, that it was in fact a Deinonychus. Although it was cool to see a dinosaur that has never been acknowledged before by the film canon, much dismay occurred because no one has ever seen Deinonychus look like this. If you typed in a quick search of Deinonychus on Google, you would either see many sleeker, feathered versions of it, or a fair handful that would look little different from the Jurassic Park Velociraptor. The problem emerges, however, when we look at what actual paleontology would say about what we know regarding the head of Deinonychus and what it probably looked like in real life. So let's consider the issue at hand. What can Jurassic World Evolution really get away with? To start, let's look at the obvious, namely that thing on the top of its head. To clarify, I do not believe this represents bone like what is seen for the crests of Dilophosaurus, but instead it's probably more like a rooster's comb that's made of fleshy skin. But would this have been possible for Deinonychus? The honest answer is that we don't know. We have no skin impressions of Deinonychus or any large dromaeosaur raptor, and so we can't really tell if they had a comb or some other fleshy structure on them. However, the fossil record is generally poor at preserving evidence for fleshy tissue. You would have never known that turkeys had wattles, roosters had fleshy combs, or owls were covered in thick feathers based on just the bones you had to look at. Similarly, we would have never known that Edmontosaurus regalis had a comb on its head without the fossil discovery I mentioned earlier. Although this representation of Deinonychus is certainly untraditional, I would not consider this to be my biggest issue with the model. In fact, there is a popular paleo art movement partly started by the book All Yesterdays that advocates for those interested in dinosaurs to think big about how dinosaurs looked and behaved, including extreme soft tissue structures that would never be preserved in the fossil record. A rooster comb on a Deinonychus is in line with one such speculative but plausible reconstruction. Instead, my biggest issue with the Deinonychus is its skull. Personally, I'm turned off by its snarling gums and its bug-eyed appearance. However, from a scientific perspective, the main problem is that the skull is actually outdated. Whereas Deinonychus was once depicted with a boxier skull, it is now recognized to have a more slender skull like this. Although I think people that know Jurassic Park have come to accept, begrudgingly or not, that the franchise's raptors are always going to be featherless, I think it pushes the limits when the developers of Jurassic World Evolution incorporate more designs that are outdated and perhaps too speculative for a dinosaur like this. But aren't my complaints just a little superfluous considering that we're dealing with the Jurassic Park franchise? Someone recently pointed out this irony to me, namely that I'm complaining about the accuracy of a dinosaur in a lore where dinosaurs have pronated hands, dromaeosaurs have no feathers on them, and some dinosaurs have a tendency to have their tails nearly drag along the ground. One might even argue that we're dealing with an entirely different universe, so the rules don't apply to our knowledge of dinosaurs. These dinosaurs are theme park monsters, as Alan Grant put it in Jurassic Park 3, and none are natural, as Dr. Wu put it in Jurassic World, so whining about an inaccurate-looking Deinonychus is a little silly, right? In my opinion, not necessarily, and I've considered this issue long before I created my channel. It is true that we have no idea about what soft tissues might have graced the head of Deinonychus. However, I think the go-to position of many paleo artists and dinosaur experts is to assume that it did not have such structures. But where artists might be in a position to give disclaimers about how fictional their work is, Jurassic World Evolution can't really do that. While a knowledgeable player might be able to discern facts from fiction, the average layman might not be able to, and so they might potentially consider this to be the real-life appearance of Deinonychus and be misinformed. Although the fleshy comb cannot necessarily be disproven, it still remains within the realm of speculation. But it becomes even more problematic with the actual bones themselves, which are within the realm of hard, testable science that, for the most part, can be proven without much doubt. To not incorporate accurate information might be interpreted as willful dissemination of false information, although I'll cut some slack for Deinonychus since the beefy skull was once the primary interpretation of how it looked. But I feel like it's also bad from a gameplay perspective because it doesn't really help differentiate Deinonychus from the Velociraptor. Both dinosaurs will probably use the same animations and thereby will probably act the same way too. I argue that the Jurassic Park Velociraptor is unique because it represents the time back in 1993 when dinosaurs were considered to be featherless, and since then consistency with the lore should be maintained. But while one stays true to Jurassic Park lore, the other is a red, outdated, speculative version of the other, even without considering the issue of feathers. Sure, it looks different from the Velociraptor, but I believe it's for all the wrong reasons. To avoid the flack that it's received, my advice is that the Jurassic World Evolution developers follow this rule. Stay true to the lore first, and then stick to the actual paleontology. I think Jurassic World Evolution managed to follow this advice beautifully with Edmontosaurus and Ceratosaurus, and I think this could apply to Deinonychus as well. Specifically for its case, I would advise the developers to stay true to the lore that raptors are featherless, but then make sure to make the head more slender based on the fossil record. I might even advise that they remove the rooster comb just to remain neutral in terms of how dinosaurs appear, but I won't whine too much about it being in the final product. If I've heard right from YouTuber The Gaming Beaver's interview with Jurassic World Evolution, we'll be able to add or remove features like the rooster comb on Deinonychus through an in-game mechanic that allows us to edit the dinosaur's DNA, and, through that, its appearance, so people that love and hate the rooster comb can all be happy. Interestingly, our voices have already been heard based on this tweet by Beau Marie, who I believe is a developer for Jurassic World Evolution that promised to look into this issue after the holidays. Although we cannot be sure whether or not this means Deinonychus will still look the way it does or not, I think this is confirmation that the developers are listening to our voices and are acting in response. It's partly why I've made my channel in the first place, so that I can add my voice with those that want certain features to be implemented into Jurassic World Evolution and perhaps see meaningful change come about. But having said my piece about Deinonychus, what does it have to do with anything? What was my point about harping on its appearance? Again, I fear that the developers might take liberties in terms of their design of some of the dinosaurs they include. I'm worried that some of the dinosaurs will be hit and miss in terms of their appearance because while some dinosaurs might look very accurate like Edmontosaurus or be true to the Jurassic Park lore, they might also create outdated, wacky-looking dinosaurs like they did with Deinonychus. Admittedly, Deinonychus seems like an exceptional case of a dinosaur whose popular portrayal, even in professional circles, is popularly inaccurate. Therefore, surely the developers can't botch up the appearances of the other dinosaurs we've yet to see, right? Well, I'm not so sure. That might just be asking for the developers to try their luck on how crazy they can make their dinosaurs look. Although I doubt we'll ever see anything as decked out as a fully leveled up creature from the likes of Jurassic World the app game, I can imagine them being a little too ambitious in adding spines, wattles, fleshy rooster combs, and other structures to their dinosaurs that we can neither confirm nor disprove. But therein lies another problem. I can't disprove nor prove that certain dinosaurs had certain types of soft tissue for the most part. Even in professional circles, the evidence for dinosaur soft tissue is mostly absent, and when it is present, it's contentious at best. For instance, a couple of discoveries related to Tyrannosaurus took the world by storm regarding how it looked in real life. While Carr et al. In 2017 found a relative of Tyrannosaurus, Daspletosaurus horneri, with texturing along its mouth that was reminiscent to that seen for crocodiles, Bell et al. In the same year described a few centimeters worth of scales on the body of a Tyrannosaurus, which they inferred to be evidence for large tyrannosaurs having lost their feathers to become scaly. Yet a vocal opposition has been raised against this interpretation of a completely scaly Tyrannosaurus, partly because we don't have a good enough sample size of its body cover. Did Tyrannosaurus sport feathers in the places we haven't found yet? Was Tyrannosaurus covered in feathers like an ostrich, except certain areas like its legs? Or like a crocodile with no feathers at all? Or like an African elephant with the tiniest strands of hair spaced across an otherwise hairless back? We don't know. But this is the kind of ambiguity that characterizes many debates on dinosaur appearances throughout the internet and professional world. Therefore, if even hardcore dinosaur enthusiasts can't agree on what the appearances of dinosaurs were in real life, then why should the developers be bound to any single interpretation save the most blatant of outdated or inaccurate information? Although people might hate the Jurassic World Evolution dinosaurs for looking too speculative, we can't really say that it's flat out wrong. Instead, I think the thing that I have a leg up in my concerns for is in regards to the accuracy of dinosaurs that have not been seen before by the film canon. Deinonychus represents this in the form of its outdated skull, which I believe should be corrected. But could the developers of Jurassic World Evolution start to blatantly change the appearances of some dinosaurs to look nothing like they do in real life? Already in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the movie has gone about the business of making Baryonyx look little like its real-life counterpart. When I first saw this image, I thought it was a Gorgosaurus or something similar based on its head and puny arms. Instead, this creature represents Baryonyx, and boy does it look nothing like its counterpart on the Jurassic World website, which is much more realistic. I remember hearing the argument that in previous Jurassic Park films, dinosaurs were reconstructed based on the knowledge of the time, so featherless raptors should be allowed to slide because they represent how professionals understood them. However, Baryonyx represents a never-before-seen creature that has been purposefully redesigned to be inaccurate for the sake of looking cooler. But really, do dinosaurs need to look cooler than what they already are? What's wrong with the real thing? Still, if the creators of the Jurassic Park franchise feel like they can take liberties in terms of how they design their dinosaurs, what's to stop Jurassic World Evolution from doing so? I think this is where, once again, you, the customer base, can come in and raise your voices. Although fans of Jurassic Park might be willing to let certain inaccuracies slide, I think most of us have standards about how we want our dinosaurs to look. We want dinosaurs to be cool without making them too far removed from the actual creatures that once roamed our world. We should make a respectful effort to express to the developers our desire for them to stay true to both the lore and the actual paleontological work that has been done on dinosaurs. We would rather have dinosaurs look like this, and not like this. And if the developers are dead set on making dinosaurs look a certain inaccurate way, then I say they should create a certain means by which all parties may be satisfied. This is where I believe modding certainly comes into play, but absent of modding, Jurassic World Evolution has already hinted to an in-game mechanic that allows players to slightly tweak the appearances of the dinosaurs. Basically, I say that Jurassic World Evolution should stay accurate to both the lore and science, but if all else fails, try to compromise and satisfy all parties involved as much as possible. I think this will allow the game to come out all the better for it. And as an added bonus, the reputations of Frontier Developments and Universal would become all the more prestigious for it. Just a thought. So we are at the end of the second part of this mini-series, and all that's left now is the third thing I believe needs to be implemented in Jurassic World Evolution in order for it to be successful, but has not yet been confirmed nor disproved. Just a reminder, the comments section will be closed for this video, but it will be open for the next video, so please direct any comments you have to that video, please. Otherwise, you may like or dislike the video as you please here, and I should be posting the third video very soon if it's not already there. So once again, your viewership is much appreciated, and I'll see you all for the final part. Leo Venator signing out, and I wish you all well.